This is Maggie Rivas-Rodriguez on June the 12th, 1999, in San Antonio, Texas, at the home of Ramon Rivas for the U.S. Latino World War II Oral History Archive Project. I'm going to ask you a few questions, Daddy. Thank you for letting us be here in your home. And Bolo Gonzalez is our photographer. And I'm going to ask you a list of questions. And throughout the interview, whenever you feel like, if you feel like you didn't want to stop the tape, we can stop the tape. If you want something to drink, we can do that. And if you want to ask any questions, let's forget that the camera's here and we're just going to do the interview. Okay?
Okay.
Okay, great. Now I'm going to start by asking you some real basic information, like what year you were born and where you were born.
I was born 19 February 1921 at Charlotte, Texas.
Were you born at your home? At home?
I would know. I would know that because my parents died when I was 4 years old, both of them 6 months apart, and I was raised by my brothers and my sisters, and I don't know. I believe back in those days we didn't have hospitals and doctors like we have today, so I presume that I was born at home.
Now you were born on you were raised on a ranch, right? Can you tell
Right,
us what
right.
what the ranch was like?
Well, as you know, we was raised in our own place, our own farm, but since all of us was young, my older brother Carlos, who took over my father's place after they died, he was 19 years old, and then I had my sister, and my other uh, four brothers, and I was the youngest of the family. My older brothers and my older sister was married by that time, so they weren't home.
So what was your daily life like? Like after your parents how when you remember, I guess you would have been already, a little boy. What was your daily life like? Can you imagine? Can you tell me like a general idea of what it was like getting up and what you ate and stuff?
Well, I believe I had a pretty good life. Uh, Not complete life because the lack of my parents and brothers or sisters. Nobody can take the place of the parents. So I, by raised by my brothers and my sisters, I think I had pretty good life as that. But then back in those days, was right after that we went to the depression, and that was where nobody had any money, and even if you had a farm and had a pretty good life, you still didn't have money because they wouldn't pay for the things that we produce back in those days.
So during the Depression, what would you all produce on your farm, and how would y'all make money?
How's that?
During the Depression, how did you make money, and what kinds of stuff did you produce on the farm?
Well, we produce like, for example, talking about depression, 1929, we raised 45 bales of cotton, but as we sold or my brothers, my brother who was in charge of the farm, sold the cotton, they didn't even have enough money to pay the pickers, the cotton pickers, and so we even had to sell the seed, cotton seed, in order to pay them. And at the end, I presume, because I didn't know I was so young, and I never discussed this with my older brother, the one that was in charge at the time, but the bushel of corn was selling for 15 cents a bushel. So you can imagine what kind of money we had. Raise pigs and raise them to the age of, say, 200 pounds or so, and bring it to the market to sell it for about $6 a pig or hog, and nothing had any price. Meat was selling for a good cut meat, like a steak, for 10 cents a pound, and if we speak today, 10 cents a pound, which is real cheap, but in order to get the 10 cents, you was heck, you know.
So you had cotton, and you had pigs.
Yeah, we raised watermelons, cantaloupes, corn, and hay for our own stock, and that's about it, I guess.
How many acres of land did y'all have, and how many heads of cattle? Do you remember?
Back in those days, we had something like, I say, maybe 25, 30 heads of cattle, and about 45 pigs, and a lot of chickens. I don't know, about, let's say, around 100 or so. And we had a pretty good thing, but then we didn't have any money. Nobody had any money. People was working for 50 cents a day, all day long, and so you imagine what kind of life they would live.
So these people that you brought in, if y'all had, you had 15 bales of cotton that you had during the Depression that y'all had one year. 15 bales, and you had cotton.
50.
50.
I said 45.
45, I'm sorry. So y'all hired cotton pickers to come in.
Sure.
How many people was that you'd have to hire?
Well, I wouldn't know. I couldn't tell you exactly how many, but included ourselves, let's say about 20 people or so.
And these are people that were just from the area, Mexicano?
Yes, right, just from the area. Uh-huh.
I know that you went off to work in the fields in the north. When was that? And was that when you were a small boy, or later when you were?
Yeah, no. Well, I was all through the years. We used to go on different places to work and pick cotton, things like that. Mostly picking cotton, I guess. But how should I say this? We didn't have no education. None of us had an education, including my older brothers, the one that took care of the place of ourselves. So, but nobody had any money. Nobody.
But so basically y'all went. Where did you go to pick?
San Angelo, Lubbock, and places like that. We even went one year to as far as Arizona.
And what did you pick?
Cotton.
Just cotton, not tomatoes or vegetables.
No, we didn't go into that.
And if you had your own land, and you had, you didn't tell me how many acres, did you? Did you tell me how many acres?
We had something like 300 acres.
300 acres.
Yeah.
Why would you have to go to someplace else to pick?
Well, I don't know. I couldn't tell you. I was very young, and I went because of my older brothers went, and all of the people used to go. I guess that was one of the things why we went, and I don't know whether we made any money going or anything like that, but and I don't know whether it was just to get away from home and go do something else, or I don't know.
So, Dad, your house that you grew up in, what was that like? Did you have one room for all of you had 4 brothers, right? You and 4
Right.
brothers that
Yeah,
lived in the
right.
house. Was it a big house? Who did the cooking?
Well, what's a big house back in those days? Had one big room, and then another small room. A family house, and then we had the kitchen was separate from that. My brother was to get married, and then he added to the house two big rooms, which was the kitchen and the dining room, and but we had a very good house. I could say today that back in those days we had one of the best homes that anybody could have had back in those days. Anybody.
When you were a little boy, did you have, and I guess as a teenager too, did you have to go did you have to get up real early and go get the eggs from the chicken and milk the cows and stuff like that?
Well, yes, all of us was together. They didn't. I don't think they forced too much of anything on me because I was too young. But then as I grew older. All of us combined, we did what chores we're supposed to do, like a lot of times get up and go and round up the mules, the horses that were out in the pasture, bring them in and feed them some corn and hay, whatever it was, before we eat breakfast, and then to Timon to go to work at fields. But
So how would you wake up? Did you have an alarm clock or?
now, back in those days, I doubted if anybody or not too many people had anything. We didn't have no clocks. We didn't have really and truly. I think wasn't any used to have watches or clocks because nobody had to go to work at any place at any time. We didn't have any certain time to get to work. We just get up and go, and that's it. Matter of fact, us in our own place, then was other people working for like Anglos Americans. Back in those days, we could call them rich, and the main man comes and round up the workers and early in the morning and wake them up and get them to go to work. But since we was on our own, we didn't have that.
So were there a lot of Anglos in your neighborhood, in your area, there in Charlotte?
Yes, there was lots of Anglo Americans and a lot of not too many Spanish-speaking people had their own places, so they had to work for these people. A lot of them, but what can I tell you? That's the way it was back in those days.
Now I remember you telling me a long time ago about going to some dances as a young man. Where it would be a dance but the whole family would come and they would be kind of like have a big party all day long. Tell me about some of those times.
Well, as I say, I came, I grew up where my sister was 15 when my parents died, and then she got married, and she went away first, and that leave, let's see, 6 of us boys by ourselves, and we.
Instead. ¿A cuáles? If you want to do it in Spanish, we can do it in Spanish too.
¿A cuáles qué?
¿Qué eran los hermanos que se quedaron en la casa?
Bueno, primeramente cuando mis padres murieron, Carlos was the oldest. He was 19. He took over my father's place. And then was Maria and Martín, Gregorio, Elías, y yo, Ramón.
Okay, and you were 4 years old, and then Maria was 15,
15.
and she got married how long after that?
She was, I guess, 19 when she got up.
Okay, so she was with you for until you were about 9 years old then.
Let's see. She was married 29. How I was 8 years from
You were born in 1920, so you were about 9 years old, 8 or 9 years old. You were born in
21.
21. Okay, so you were 8, 7 or 8.
Pero I was 4 years old, so then let's see, or
I don't know.
I was about 8 or 9 years old when she married, and I lived the rest of us by ourselves, all males.
So do you think that kind of a bunch of boys kind of growing up by yourselves, do you think that it made it hard for you to learn some other things about, I don't know, about how to do you feel like you got good guidance? Because sometimes people feel like if there's a woman around that they'll teach kids better manners and how to take care of themselves, how to groom themselves, and
I think coming to something like that, we had pretty good manners. We weren't wild or anything like that. But then naturally, it's always when a woman at home to do some cooking, that we can come home to really home. As I remember today, we didn't have a home. Had a house, but we didn't have a home. A home, I call it like this is a home, that you, my children, or anybody can come here and this is a home. But then if we wouldn't be here, you would come here, you would come to an empty house, a cold house. Nothing warm about this house. So this is the way I interpreted our home, that we had a fine house, a beautiful house back in those days, but then just the house. Nothing, we didn't have nobody to do some cooking, nobody waiting for us when we came or anything like that. We had to do everything on our own, and if we feel like to go out, we went out, and we didn't have to ask anybody or nobody to tell us when to get back or anything like that, to guide us, in other words. Like when you have your parents, they guide you and they say, you will go out and you come back at certain hours or whatever. But back in those days, we didn't have that. People, I say, I've been saying this before and I'm going to say it again, is that people that didn't have nothing had more than we did, because the lack of our parents. I think parents at home are the most wonderful thing that any home can have.
tell me about these parties that y'all would have.
How's that?
Parties that y'all had that were all kind of the all-day parties?
Well, we didn't have any parties.
But you told me, keep on talking, but I've got a closed door here.
We didn't have any parties. We just had to dances to go to.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Tell me about some of those dances that you'd go to.
Well, people there at home used to make home dances, they call it back in those days.
¿Cómo se decían en español? If somebody was going to invite you to one of these things, how would you?
Well, no, ni los invitaban, nomás sabíamos que iba a haber bailes, que fulano de tal iba a tener baile ahora en la noche y íbamos, toda la gente sí. No teníamos invitaciones como ahora, no había communications como hay ahora, así de que nomás oíamos que iba a haber baile en una casa y íbamos
So they must have had musicians that would go.
¿Cómo?
Musicians? ¿Había músicos?
No, pues guitarras y violines, acordeones y cosas de esas. Dos músicos usually, uno con una guitarra y uno con un acordeón, uno con una guitarra y cantando y así. No había como era que, o con un violín.
So what, did they have food?
Casi por lo regular, cuando iban así las familias de las casas nos invitaban a tomar café, hacían panes dulces ellas mismas y nos invitaban a tomar café y así, porque en aquel tiempo, como no había electricidad, no había hieleras, no había sodas, como ahora la gente, la juventud quiere que todo el tiempo ha habido estas cosas como hieleras, electricidad, la televisión y radios y cosas. No, en aquel tiempo no había nada de eso. Así de que no había ni carreteras, no había nada de eso. No había automóviles como hay ahora. La gente andaba a caballo, a pie, en guayines y en fin. Así de que cuando iba a haber un baile nos iban a pie.
So that would take you a long time to get there, no?
Bueno, la gente estaba impuesta a esa clase de vida en aquel tiempo, así de que eh, el tiempo que cogía para llegar a esos lugares no tenía importancia porque toda la gente estábamos iguales, nadie teníamos nada. Ni nadie te esperaba, ni tú pensabas llegar a tales horas.
Hey, Daddy, tell me something. I remember you telling me that you started smoking, or you learned to smoke when you were 4 years old.
Well, no, eso cuando yo, what happened? Yo me acuerdo que después de que mamá murió, mi papá estaba enfermo y yo iba y le pedía dinero, le pedía un icle para ir a comprar tabaco y mi papá me daba un icle y me iba yo a la tienda a comprar tabaco. Compraba tabaco y tabaco del Toro y luego le decía a Ramón Muñiz, que era el de la tienda ahí, le decía, tocayo, deme unas mechas. Y metía la mano hacia abajo del counter y sacaba un montón de mechas así en la mano, me las daba y me iba yo y iba a hacer mis cigarros allá. Pero ese era nomás como un juego, really, como a little joke. Porque no empecé a fumar entonces. Ese fue nomás una cosa pasadera.
Tell me about school, then. Where did you go to school? What was your school like? Your teachers and everything.
Bueno, la escuela donde yo fui era en Carlota, Charlotte, Texas. Y teachers, I suppose the teachers that we had, they probably didn't have not even a picture degree, a degree or anything. They were just, but we call it teachers anyway. And what they taught us maybe was the best at the time, but since they had us separate from the Anglos, the Anglo-Americans had a brick two-story schools where we had a wooden building school out there away from them. And you can imagine what kind of education. We had to reach fourth grade in order to go through the with the Anglos, but we never nobody reached that because we used to start first grade and stay there 2-3 years, and then go to second grade and then stay there like that until we never got through with that to go to the with the Anglos. So we stayed there. That I know back in my days, nobody went over there. So, but nobody had an education. I guess the country thought that the minorities we didn't have to have no education. But then when I went in the service in the army, this was 1941, and now should I continue that or?
Sure, go ahead. Go ahead.
And I was in the army. Even the Anglo Americans didn't have any education. After the war, then they thought the education was needed, I guess.
Dad, going back a little bit to the school, to your school, what did kids wear to go to school?
Well, all of the people was poor, included Anglos and everybody. But us, a lot of my people or Spanish people, the speaking people, a lot of them went barefooted. A lot of them, back in those days, now people think that these clothes and things, we had it all through the years, through the life. But back in those days, people, they had only maybe 2 pair of shoes. Sometimes even just 1 pair of shoes, and they shine them and fix them up to dress the same pair of shoes you used to work and to dress. And we only had maybe two pair set of clothes. Today we had a lot of clothes, and back in those days, people didn't have those kind of clothes.
Not at your school. Did kids did you speak Spanish? Were you allowed to speak Spanish, or did they?
Yeah, we speak Spanish.
Did the teachers speak Spanish?
I don't think so. I don't know.
Were they Anglo teachers?
Yeah.
All the teachers were Anglos?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Did they have separate classrooms for? I mean, did they have like first graders here, second graders in another room?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it wasn't just one big room for all the.
No. It was my days. We had 3 rooms, and then they added another room. So our school was a 4-room school.
So all the first graders were in one room.
Right.
And did you say that nobody ever went past the 4th grades? Would they just get discouraged? Why did kids have to be in first grade for more than a year?
Well, because who are there to tell the teacher you're not doing it right? This child should go advance. In other words, the teacher back in those days, she was the only one that had anything to do with anything. So whatever the teacher says, that was it.
So you mean, were there times where the students would be able to read in first grade, and they should have been permitted to go to second grade?
Oh yes. Read just like a first grader can or second grader can, but then who are there to tell the teacher or to come and check the school to see how things was running or operating, if it was operating right or wrong?
Did your parents ever, do you remember, I know you were very young, but did your parents ever talk about school and whether it was important and whether you were being treated right?
No. No, because they had us down, Maggie, and I don't think it's nothing like this today. As, so back in those days, who was there to say what was what? Nobody. Whatever the teachers said or the school did, that was it, and nobody to process about it or anything. Just you you do it this way, and you're gonna take it this way, and that's it.
Um, Bobby told me one time about a time when a teacher whipped Tío
Martin.
Tío Martin. Tell me about that.
Well, this was way before my days because Martin was much older than me. But then I don't know what he did or anything. So there was the teacher was a man teacher, sent some of the older boys to get a rama de what we call it uña de gato, es un chaparro, and this brush they put that piece of stick on the on fire and make it real flexible. And with this, the teacher whipped my brother on his back, leaving the scars all over his back. And when they told my father went over there with a gun, but the teacher was gone, and the teacher never came back to school there.
Hold on one second, Daddy. I see the microphone slipping. So, do you think the reason that your father was upset was because, I mean, this was an unusual thing for a kid to be beaten like that, to be whipped?
Pues sí, porque en aquel tiempo, lo mismo que hoy, padres que quieren a su familia no van a permitir que alguien los abuse. Y nada, en esa forma no. Así de que yo ahora, con lo que yo sé, yo lo hubiera seguido y I would have a big talk with him. Not saying what I would do, pero es que a uno de mis hijos no los iban a tratar así.
Dad, how long were you in school?
That I couldn't tell you. I guess I must have going to school maybe off and on, porque no era como ahora que fuéramos. Ahora los niños van a la escuela o durante el día y nosotros, como teníamos que salir a los trabajos, nos íbamos en septiembre y no veníamos no empezaron la escuela hasta después de los Christmas. Así de que después de Año Nuevo, más bien. Así de que íbamos a la escuela nomás unos 2 o 3 meses del año, yo creo. Pero no sé qué tantos años iría. Pero yo sé que estaba muy joven cuando ya no fui a la escuela.
Was it like a decision that you made not to go to school anymore, or how
Pues no, pues así era toda la gente lo hacía igual. Toda la gente lo hacía igual.
So you got about the same kind of education that your brothers and sisters got?
No, unos de ellos no fueron ni a la escuela, porque no había escuela para ellos en aquel tiempo. Como mi hermana la mayor, no había, y todos los mayores, no había escuela para ellos.
So they didn't learn to read at all?
No, lo que aprendieron, lo aprendieron lírico, pero no había escuelas.
¿Qué quiere decir eso, lírico?
Learn on your own. That learn about somebody teaching you at home or something like that.
Okay. I'm reading some of these questions here. So at what point now you were basically you're working on the family ranch. You were going to school a little bit. You were working on the ranch. You're going to work in the cotton fields or whatever
Yeah.
around. Um, at what point did you join the service?
What you mean? At what point I
I
went?
mean, the war broke out, and you.
No. I was before the war. I went in. Yeah, I went in April the 14th, 1941.
How do you remember that
And
date?
and the war didn't start until December.
So what made you decide to join up?
Well, everybody was going into service back in those days, joining up, and I was one of it. That I told my sister I want to join in the army, so I went and signed in, and everybody was doing that.
Why? Because it was a war.
No, there was no war back in those days.
Well, there was a war in Europe, I guess. But
Well, yes, pero la mayoría de nosotros no sabíamos que había guerra. Matter of fact, te voy a decir que none of the people, I don't think, including the Anglo-Americans, knew there was war back over there in Europe. Nomás es que no había trabajos, no había trabajos y la gente, como yo trabajé en el WWII, I guess they call it, at $18 a month. And then the Army was paying $21 a month. So I guess we thought we go in because of the money part. I think that's what it
you
was.
worked for the WPA, Dad? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
What did you do there?
Well, did lots of work, like over here in Pleasanton. There was a wooden school 6 miles out of Pleasanton. There's Corpus, and they brought that school to Pleasanton, and then we put it back together. We started the chimney. They had that school back over there, and then we built it, and we built the rock fence that is around Pleasanton School there. I guess even today, we built that ourselves.
So you worked there from.
I was about 18 years old, I guess.
So you were making $18 a month.
$18 a month, yeah.
Was that considered good wages?
Well, the best we could get back in those days, anybody. Because grown-ups, the men were working for WPA at, I believe, $21 a month or something like that. They're the one that construct Breckenridge Park and different places. Here at the Riverside Walk, a lot of that work was done by those men back in those days.
So how long were you in the WPA then?
I don't know. I couldn't tell you. Not too long.
But then that's how you found out about joining the service.
Right.
A lot of people in the WPA were joining service.
Right.
But your brothers didn't join.
No.
Why not? Why do you suppose they didn't?
Well, for one thing, is that my brothers were married, and they had their family, and I was single, and I was 20 years old, so I went in the army, and that's it.
Apologies. Okay, so you joined the service in April because everybody was joining the service. Did you know what you were getting into?
No, como te digo, back in those days, we didn't even know there was war, and there was no war here. Uh, and I don't think the president back in those days wanted to go on war, but then since we had so many men in the service, and then the Japanese struck Pearl Harbor back in those days. Then is when the war started. But by that time, we had this country had a lot of men in the service, and we had the equipment to go with it, but we had the manpower.
So when you got there, what was the first thing that struck you about being in the service? What did they make you take tests? Did they make you do physicals and all that stuff?
Oh yes, yes. Well, I joined in the army at April 14, 1941, and we came to Fort Houston to get our physical, and then from then they sent us to that field, which is close to, I guess, I don't know where that field is today, but yeah, I guess it's close to Fort Houston somewhere. And from there, they give us the uniforms and how little basic training there. And then,
What do you mean, a little bit of phrase? What exactly did you learn about? What was basic training?
well, first they start teaching, because back in those days, we none of us had any basic training about what the army or the service looked like. But then we didn't even know what sergeant or a corporal, or the difference between the ranks, in other words, you know. And they start teaching us to salute the officers and things like that. But we didn't know who the officer was. So back in those days, I remember me walking, and a lot of us walking, I guess, the street with the hands straightened up like that, ready to salute somebody, you know. And a lot of times, I guess, we didn't even know that it was an officer, but we saluted him anyway. But and that's mainly what they taught us there, how to the difference between a corporal or a PFC or corporal or sergeant, or the difference or an officer, like one with the bars and things like that.
Okay. Before this, I wonder, did y'all have a feeling about being part of the United States in Charlotte, Texas? I mean, you know, if did they talk about it in school about Texas being part of the United States and we're one big country and we're, you know?
No, back in those days, I never remember talking about anything. We didn't know, the majority of us didn't know anything about the country or anything like that. We was raised there in Charlotte. The further that I went was like Corpus Christi, Laredo, and San Antonio, and things like that. And then when we went to work, like I say, San Angelo, Lubbock, or through there, but we didn't know anything about the country, or nobody to tell us the difference of the country.
So did you like think of yourself as a United States citizen?
Today?
No, today, yeah, for sure. I know you do, but back then when you were just starting out, did you think about that?
No, we didn't.
To you joining the service was that kind of like another job?
I think so. Was just like another job, and I guess to get away from the same old routine things every day, you know.
So in basic training, did you start getting an idea of a little bit more about what it was to be in the United States and all that?
Uh, well, back in those days, since none of us had too much of any education, we didn't know anything about the country or me. I'm to be proud to belong to this country because this is United States of America and things like that. We didn't know that the difference between that or anything else. Now today, you ask me, and I can tell you I know something about it. But back in those days, we was uh, we was raised, and this I go to say to a lot of the people, or all of the people, like little animals that we didn't know any better. Today, I think I know better, but back in those days, nobody, I don't think, knew any better than anything.
Okay. So you joined in 1941, and you were at that time you were 19 years old or 18? How old were you?
20.
20. You're
I
20.
was 20.
You're 20 years old. And um so when the war started, did that make you think a little bit differently about?
No, by that time, see, I took my basic training here and then I went to Galveston. It was a King Wallace back in those days, a new place built close to Galveston. And I went to train over there with the guns and things like that. And then they sent us to Fort Bliss, Texas, El Paso. And from there was a lot of outfits. Like 206 National Guard from Arkansas, which I belong to, and then the 200 from New Mexico, 160 from 160 from. I always think about it, and today I can't think. So then. And from then they asked volunteer. We was all mixed, you know, from the people from around this part of the country. So then they asked volunteers to fill up the outfits that was going overseas, which I joined 206 National Guard from Arkansas, and we went. We were supposed to go for 6 months and then return back. But by that time, the war started, and we stayed over there, and that was 3 years for me.
You stayed over where?
Uh, Dutch Harbor.
The 206 National Guard from Arkansas.
Mm-hmm.
And you went to Dutch Harbor, Alaska.
Mm-hmm. Aleutian Islands.
What's that like?
Hmm?
What was that like?
Well, we had I think we had a pretty good life. We didn't have any fights or anything like that. We all, I loved my men all the time, and had a pretty good captain, pretty good leaderships, and so.
What is your captain's name, Dad?
Huh?
What is your captain's name? Do you remember?
Wooden.
Wooden?
Uh-huh.
What is his first name?
I don't remember his first name. Matter of fact, I don't think we ever knew his first name because we never call it. We call it captain.
So, what was the Aleutian Islands like? What was Dutch Harbor like when you got there?
Well, when I got there, we was the first soldiers that went over there, and was nothing there. It was so beautiful. everything. Like when we landed there, when we got there, was lots of flowers, pink and light blue flowers and green. The whole thing, all the mountains and everything was just beautiful. I couldn't explain it. I couldn't tell you what it looked like, but it was a beautiful country.
What month was that?
Monday?
What month was that?
That was in September 41. We landed over there 15th of September 1941.
At an airport?
No.
On a ship?
On ship. No. We didn't have no airplanes back in those days, Maggie. No transport or anything like that. Matter of fact, we rarely had airplanes, period.
So what was your understanding of why you were in Dutch Harbor?
No, just we didn't question. I don't think none of us ever questioned that part. I think we was there because we were sent there, and as a group, I say it's a group, and so I don't know how to say this, but just another place we went, or we were supposed to go.
You saw it on the map, though. You saw how far it was from Charlotte, Texas.
No. Back in those days, we didn't even think about how far or anything, because back in those days, I doubted if many of us knew anything about mileage or anything like that. First place, when you get out in the water and travel for about 8 days on a ship, and you don't know how far you are or where you've been or anything like that. But
you were there on a ship for 8 days, though, to get there?
Yeah.
You left from San Francisco?
No, from Washington, Seattle.
Oh, really? And it took 8 days? That's all the
time. Yeah.
So, Dad, when you were there, were you the only Mexicano in your platoon? Is that what you call it? A platoon?
I was the only Mexican American in my outfit for a long time, until the war started, and then they start sending more troops over there to fill up, and.
Okay, let me make sure I got the chronology right, though. You joined up in April of 41, and then when were you sent to the Aleutian Islands? So that was September. Was that 41?
41, yeah.
Okay. So the war breaks out in December, and then that's when they started sending more people up to the Aleutian Islands?
Yeah, after that, not right away, but after that, they start sending but we wasn't the only outfit there. Well, there was more people there.
How many people were there in your group?
I couldn't tell you, but maybe was 2 regiments. Or part of the regiments anyway.
Did all these people from Arkansas, did they know anything about Mexicans and Mexican Americans in Texas? How do they treat you?
Oh, they treat me, I think, fairly good. I guess I say, Maggie, back in those days, we I don't think there was too much discrimination towards me, because I was the only one, But for one thing, I don't think the captain will allow that to happen. But they keep calling me names like Speak and things like that, But since I didn't know no better, and I didn't care, But we got along fine, I think.
You didn't take offense when they called you Spick?
Nah, no, because who would I jump on or what? and I was young, and I didn't know no better. I don't know no better even today, but back in those days I was worse.
Okay. So what did you do in the Aleutian Islands?
Well, in the Aleutian Islands, as we got up the boat there was this little round hill right above the harbor there, and then the base was I said, about a mountain there that we had to walk with all our belongings in the backs because our trucks hadn't got in yet or anything like that. So we had to walk over there, and the civilians workers there was working construction there, like building the streets, and I guess they built the base there for us before we got there. These guys hate us. The civilians that was working there, they hate us. I guess for us coming in, or because we was in the army, and they drive by us and spit us with bunch of mud and things, and that was, I guess, back in those days, that was the kind of life, and nobody to tell them anything. Or
But you were there to dig bunkers.
well, then we this little hill I'm talking about, right on the mouth of the harbor there, that was my position. That I went there, 13 of us men, with two 50 caliber machine. I guess it was two 50 caliber machine guns and a 37 millimeter, and we start digging in to make our own dugouts, and that was nothing but solid rock. We worked on that thing for many months, or I say even years. By the time I finished there, you didn't have to walk on top of the soil at all. We had even tunnels underneath it. Everything was camouflage, and we had our gun on the dugout there too. That everything we sleep under the ground and live there, and we had to walk about a mile down to the base to eat 3 meals a day. Of course, we didn't go 3 meals a day. We maybe went two meals a day.
Okay, so you were in the Aleutian Islands and you served with lots of different people, and you were there for how long? 3 years?
3 years.
Why so long?
Why so long? Because the war was on.
Was everybody there for 3 years?
Huh?
Was everybody stationed there for 3 years?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the ones that we went at the time, we stayed there. There was no coming back. The only thing that they charged some men that was 39 or over, they brought him home. They got him out of there because an old man can't fight a war. So anybody over, like I say, 39, they brought him home.
So during this time that you were away for 3 years without coming back home at all?
Well, no, I stayed 2 years, and then the ones that of us that went earlier or at that time, we got Christmas vacation after 2 years. We spent. They give us 15 days from Seattle to come home by train, and we didn't get to stay at home hardly any. We had to return back to Seattle, and of course nobody knew what's really, I think, what's going on at the time, but we had to wait for a ship to take us back, Last time we stayed there 2-3 months, waiting for transportation to go back.
To come back to go back to the Aleutian Islands?
Yeah, to go back to our outfit.
So when during this time, the first 2 years that you were away from your family, did you write letters home? Did you communicate?
Yeah.
Have you kept any of those letters?
What?
Have you kept any of the letters that you wrote, or did they write back to you?
No.
No, they didn't write back to you.
Huh?
Did they write back to you?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Had an idea of what was going on.
Right.
Oh.
Well, see, back in those days, you couldn't say anything really. You can tell about the weather. We can tell about anything. The only thing that was allowed to talk about ourselves, that we was all right and things like this, but we couldn't talk about anything because they censored the mail going in and out.
So when you came back after those 2 years, did you what kind of reception did you get? What did people say? Did they say you look different?
Well, no, I don't know if. Well, they didn't tell me if I'm gonna move. Okay, I'm gonna sit up this way. Nobody asked us if we felt any better or we look any better or anything like that. We were just another young man coming home, you know. But
Well, here
people,
when you went home to Carlota, what did people say to you in Carlota? Did they say what's the service like and what's the war like?
well, yes, we talk about the kind of life we was having over there and things like that, and what would look like and things like that. But we weren't allowed to take pictures or anything like that. So,
So, Dad, those winters must have been awfully cold.
yes, it was. They were cold, very cold.
And were you just always cold?
Mm-hmm.
Were you just always cold, or did you have the right kind of clothing? Was there?
Oh yes, we had wonderful clothes for the weather. You know, like we were the long johns with wool, and then the wool pants over it, and then the weather report and weather clothes over it.
Is weather clothes? Is that like rubber stuff?
Some of it was rubber, yeah, or mostly was rubber, yeah.
Okay, so at what point did you meet Henrietta?
My wife, I met her after when I came home from overseas. This was, I guess, pretty close to right around 45, I guess. You know, when I came home, that I met her here in San Antonio.
And do you remember where you went or where you were?
Well, I went back to El Paso. I was stationed there at El Paso, and I went back to El Paso, and then from then I went to different places like St. Louis, Missouri, and I went to what's the name?
Someplace in Oklahoma, right?
Well, afterwards, but we was at the
That's okay, Dad.
my mind not working.
That's not necessary.
But then, yeah, after I came back to Oklahoma,
So do you remember how you met her?
I met her there. My brother had a dance in his house, Luis Rivas, and I met her there. My brother sort of introduced me to her. She says, "That's a girl." And so that's how I met my wife.
So, what did people talk about? Did people talk about the war after war broke out in 1941, and you came back here? Did people talk about, this is a bad? Should we stop for a second because there's a lot of background noise? Let's stop for 2 seconds. So after the war did break out, did people in Carlota and around, did they start talking about the war and about what the United States was going to do? And
No, well, they didn't know. Like I said, back in those days, people didn't have any notice about wars and things like that. Of course, my older sister used to tell us about the First World War. This was that she remembered back in those days, But the rest of us, we didn't know anything about war, and people didn't know about war. They didn't know. Back in those days, Maggie, we didn't have, like I say, radios or television, things like that. So people used to hear the news about the war in Europe and things like that, and then the Japanese war and things like that. But and we talk about it, sure. You know what the Japanese was doing to us back in those days, uh, and that was it because we was in war with anybody but Japanese back in those days. But then I didn't know that United States got involved with the war in Europe. Uh, uh, See, this country was supplying, but I just hear on television now, this country was supplying England and all of those countries with equipment and things like that back in those days that I guess people didn't know those things. But while us men went into the service, the women took over the factories to make guns, ammunition, and things like airplanes and things like that.
but for you, Dad, for you when you were what were you thinking about the war, and how were you thinking about how the United States was changing, or your own people were changing? What were there? Did you think about that?
Well, we weren't changing, I don't think. People just, we didn't know anything about anything else other than that what we were supposed to do. I'm talking about me being in the army, what I was supposed to do, and that was it. But we didn't know. Of course, we here, and when I was in the Aleutian Islands, that I used to be in guard like 3 o'clock in the morning. We used to see this is here in Spanish. This is station here at what's the name? Eagle Pass.
Oh yeah.
Uh-huh. That was a station that we could hear. I could hear it when I was sitting in guard at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. We could hear real clear over
Where
there.
were you?
I was at Dutch Harbor.
And you could hear the station all the way from Eagle Pass.
Yeah, at that hour, yes.
And did you hear what kind of music did you hear?
I don't remember the music, but usually just ordinary music like we had back in those days, and talk. People talk about shows back in those days
You
over
were
there.
talking in Spanish?
There was this was a Spanish station, and they was talking in Spanish. Yes.
That must have felt good.
And another thing I want to tell you that I want people to know that since since I was since I was the only Mexican American in my outfit, I used to be in war and speaking Spanish. So I won't forget the Spanish because people don't think that you can lose your language if you don't practice it. You eventually you're gonna lose it. And I used to catch myself. I used to catch myself speaking Spanish, So when I come back home, I could talk to people.
What is it about V-mail? What's V-mail then?
Letters.
V-mail? What's V-mail? It says ask them about the V-mail. I don't know.
I guess talking about just like a postcard back in those days. They had these letters. I believe cost something like half a cent or something I had to send.
Okay.
Less than a letter.
Now all this time that you were serving alongside the Anglos, did you change your feelings about Anglos? Did you have an idea of what Anglos were like before, and did it change it?
Well, tell you the truth, I never thought bad about Anglos back in those days, and we used to get along pretty good with people. Of course, my family wasn't the kind of family that raised hell and things like that, but we used to get along pretty good. And I used to have lots of fights when I was in the school bus with them, because they used to get the pencils and stick the pencils onto our children, my like little children, and I used to get on fight with them because of that.
This is when you were in school?
Yeah, this is when I was in school here in Jordan.
Or did was you had school buses?
Yeah, we had the first school buses that we had was 1929s and 30s school buses. They didn't have the seats like they have today. They had only like benches on the side and the long side of the bus, and one wider in the middle, separate the Anglo from the Spanish.
Did you ever wonder about why that was? Why they were separating them?
Well, back in those days, like I said before, we didn't know any better, and this is way of life, that Anglos, we went to church since I was Catholic. We went to church together, and but that was about the only thing. The barber shop didn't cut our hair. The Anglos barber shop, that is, and some restaurants they didn't. Well, there in Charlotte, I don't think we had any restaurant that they didn't serve us, but other places, getting out of this part of the country, let's go to West Texas. There was lots of discrimination in the roads, even when my wife and I got married, and we was going to Oklahoma. I was dressed in uniform, and we couldn't go to the restaurants because they won't serve us. Even me in uniform. After I came back after 3 years overseas.
Did you ever argue with them about that?
Yes, but it wasn't anything I could do.
Now, did you, when you were growing up and they had the angle, did the Mexicans in church, did they have everybody sitting next to each other? Did they have the Anglos on one side and the Mexicans on the other side?
I believe we was mixed pretty much. In Charlotte, we was over places like other little towns, like Devine and places like that. No, they was separated.
Didn't your family give the church money to build a church? You get or land to build a church on in Charlotte?
My father and my mother donate the land where the church is built. Yeah.
Um. So when all this time when they would have the Mexicans on one side and the Anglos on the other side, did you think that did you feel like Anglos and Mexicans were equal?
No, I don't even think today, Maggie, the Anglos and Mexicans or the blacks and things like that are equal.
No.
No, because it's still today is like a discrimination.
Okay, but putting aside how people are treated, do you think that Anglos are better than Mexicans?
I don't think nobody's better than me.
Okay. Before you, when you were growing up, did you think that Anglos were better than Mexicans?
No,
No, you never.
no, I never. That never came to my mind that I thought anybody was better than me.
But that was what everybody thought.
Well,
That was like what the society thought.
well, the society even today, you take. I'm going to say it this way, and I've been saying it all through my life. This is Anglo country. This is a white country. This is not a place for minorities, and that means Mexican Americans or blacks or anybody that we the same. Just this thing. When you're gonna adopt a baby, the Anglos say sell for $20,000. The Mexican American 15,000. The blacks about 10,000, maybe even 5,000. So there's that right there's a discrimination, even with the babies that there's a lot of people adopt, and even today, who's in the top of the government? Who owns all the banks? The big business. Who owns it? The whites. And that's not run by minority at all. And this you can mark it down on your books, and and I say I'm Ramon Rivas, and speaking out of my mind what I think about this country. This country has been it's never been equal and never will be equal. Maybe it's equal to some people, and but I tell you one thing: if you wanna, even today's places that we're not allowed to go. Like back in those days when I was coming up, theater was we couldn't go in, and if we did go in, we had our place like in the balcony over there someplace, but we cannot sit with them.
Let me ask you this: how did World War II change your life?
The Second World War changed my life to make me what I am today. And thank God that this happened and that I spent 4.5 years. And this, I would not take anything from anybody, regardless of who it is. And I think nobody is more American than I am. I was born in this country. I spent 4.5 years of my life to fight the war. And a lot of these, even the presidents, they come from other places here to make their home in United States. And another thing I want to say is that I was born and raised here. I fought for this country, and yet I'm still Mexican American or Mexican. When people call me Mexican. Then Anglos can come to this country as soon as they land at the airport, and because they're white, they're Mr. So-and-so. But they're not going to say they're Germans or they're Polish or they're whatever. No, they're going to say Mr. And me, I'm still Mexican. Even though I was born and raised here, and all my brothers was born and raised here, and I fought for this country, but I'm still Mexican.
How does that make you feel about your country?
By my country, I say the country is wonderful. The leaders are not good. The country is wonderful. I don't think it's other country like this one. But then, on the other hand, I think that look what's going on these killings and all of these blacks and Spanish they have and penitentiaries and things like that. Don't you think that Anglos do the bad things too? But of course, they keep it covered up.
Let me get back to this, Dad. So when you say that World War II made you what you are today,
huh?
When you say that World War II made you what you are today,
right?
What is that? Because you didn't use the GI Bill, or did you use the GI Bill?
No, but I tell you one thing, I'm willing to sacrifice my life for my family and for I stand for. I don't owe this country anything, and they owe me what I did for them. But that and yet, like I say, today and yesterday, they treat us like dirt, and they still treating us like dirt.
Let me ask you this: you went to Divine, and you worked after you got out of the service, and you were married to Mom, started having kids. What kind of jobs did you do then?
Well, first of all, I went work at Fort Sam Houston, and they wanted me to fall in like if I was in the service, and they want to call the roll to see if we was there and present and things like that. And I told the captain that was ahead of me. I said, Captain, I said, you create this help because I'm not gonna stand on this, and I'm not gonna stand and go to be called roll by you or anybody else. And so I quit, and I quit the job there for some Houston, because I wasn't gonna allow anybody to push me around no further. And this is the way I feel then, and this is the way I feel today.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I missed something there. What was he was calling roll, and you didn't want him to call roll?
Yeah, we had to stand like if we was in the army, stand and hard to say, like you know, when you're in the service, yeah, and they right, you had to stand like in line, and they called your name.
And you wouldn't do that?
No, heck
Okay,
no.
so where did you go then?
Huh?
Where did you go then?
Then I quit, and they didn't want. And when I went to the office, they didn't want me to quit. And I said, yes, I'm going to quit because I'm not going to stand this here no more. And then I went to work different things, and I went to Michigan to work at Mueller Breast Company over there, and Mueller Breast Company.
What's that?
It was where they melt the breast.
Oh, brass. Okay.
Mm-hmm. And but then and then I came and brought my wife over there. But then she got sick, so she came home and told me that because the doctor over there wanted to operate on her, and she says, "No, who I'm." We had my young son, my oldest son, Robert, and he was a year old, and she says, "Who I'm going to live with?" No, I can't be operated here. I'm going to go home. So she came by train, her and Bobby, and then she went to see the doctor here, and the doctor told her that the tumor that doctor told you over there is the you expectant baby, and that was on Irma was coming. So so then she told me, and she used to get real sick when she was uh, so then I came home.
So at some point, you worked at different jobs there. You sold ice cream for a while.
Different jobs, yes. Uh-huh.
At what point did you decide to go to Divine and open a barber?
Well, I was your uncle Beto came one time and asked me if we want to go to Seattle, Washington, and then we were supposed to go and get a job in going to Alaska and get a job. So we went at that time, and we didn't, the job that there was already gone. So he went to see at Boeing Aircraft about a job, and they was going to pay him even less than what he will make here at Keller Field. So he said, "No, I'm not going to work." So we came to California, and I worked there at ¿cómo se llama? Cannery. I worked there, cannery, and then my wife and my brother-in-law wrote me and said there was this barber shop in Divine. Why don't I come and take it over and things like that? So I had a barber's master's. So I came and took the barber shop there in Divine.
Why would you leave to go to Seattle and then California?
How is that what?
Why did you leave to go to Seattle and California?
Why?
Why?
Well, because your tío Beto wanted to go, and
But were there no jobs here?
no, there was no jobs here, not pay anything really, you know. So so we know that's why we went over there, looking for better job, for better deals, you know.
So why did you go to barber school then?
Well, I went to barber school to learn to cut hair, and then once I learned to cut hair, we were working for 50 cents a haircut, and that wasn't making hardly anything either, you know. So I was working barber shop and then cutting hair, and then had some odd jobs on the side. And when he asked me to go over there, I said, maybe this is a good deal. So we went. And then we didn't like what we see over there in Seattle, so we came to California, to Oakland. And there where I lived for a while, and he did too.
How long were you there then?
Not very long, I don't think. Maybe about a couple of months or so, I guess. But then when they told me about this barber shop, and my wife needed me here, by that time we had, I guess, 5 children or so, and I knew that I was needed here, and so I came home, and then I went and took the barber shop. And
where'd you get the money to buy the barber shop with?
Well, it didn't take very much money or anything. I had whatever it take to, because I was rented back in those days. So I just paid the rent, and move in. And
But you had to have. There was some barber. Also, there were barber chairs and everything all set up there.
yes,
Your
yes,
clippers and
right,
stuff.
right.
So it's just you by yourself.
Yeah.
How much did you charge for that?
I believe back in those days, I was still charging 50 cents a haircut.
That's a lot of haircuts.
Yeah, and then, but we didn't have any places to go or anything like that. Necessities like we have today. Today we need people need to make lots of money in order to survive. Back in those days, your mother and I, we were used to being poor and to not have anything. So we made it all right. And then since I didn't go out, we didn't go to any place. I was able to save a little money,
That still has tape on it. Okay.
You want to see?
Not that.
Or 57 minutes.
Really? God, it feels like we've been interviewing for a long time. Okay. One time you told me about you were cutting the hair in Divine of all the Mexicanos, and that somebody, the whoever was cutting hair for the Anglos in town wanted you to charge a certain price.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
Well, as I said before, I wasn't gonna let anybody tell me how to do things. I was gonna do it my way, and I had set my mind to do things my way, and that I wasn't gonna allow anybody to tell me how to do things. Since I knew how to do this, my work, and then there was when I went to introduce myself to these Anglo barber shops, and they, as soon as I opened the door, they told me, "We don't cut Mexicans' hair here." I said, "I didn't come to get a haircut. I came to introduce myself. I'm Ramon Rivas. I'm going to take up this Manuel Pompes barber shop, old barber shop." And so, "Oh, you welcome," and this and that. Then they can send tune. But then there was a fella, Ramsey, had a barber shop across the street from him, and he said, "What that son of a bitch told you when you went over there?" I told him what he said, and he said, "Let's run him out of business." I said, "No." I said, "I didn't come here to do any such a thing. I came here to get along with people and to do my thing my way." And then when I joined this barber association, then they wanted me to charge their price like they wanted to, for me to do like they wanted me to do. And I told them, "No, I'm going to do things my way." And
There was a barber association in Divine.
well, no, there was not there, but we went to Hondo, Pure Salt, and then we had meetings here in San Antonio with this barber association over here.
So it was like a union.
Yeah, like a union.
Okay.
And they wanted me to close. We used to open on close only one day a week. This was on Sundays, and then they want us to close Sundays and Mondays. And I told them, "Why should I do things like you guys want me to do? I want to do things my way." And then so they bought it that we should everybody close on Mondays. So I agreed to that. But then when they wanted me to charge, I was charging 75 cents, and they want me to jump to $1.25. I said, "No, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to stick to 75 cents because my people are poor people, and they can't afford to pay much more than that. So I'm going to do things my way."
So did you resign from the barber association?
No, I was
You
still.
just did your own.
I was still, but I wasn't going to do what they told me to do.
It must have been. Were there not times when you were with your own business and y'all and all the kids that you were worried about whether you were going to make ends meet?
How's that again?
Weren't you worried about money coming in? Weren't there times where you were worried about you weren't making enough money, or it was hard to make ends meet, pay all the bills and everything?
Well, we did pretty good because, as I say, your mother and I, we satisfied with what we had, you know, and uh, and even today we satisfied with what we have. But and for the type of money we get and the expenses that we have, we're still making it all right.
Let me ask you this. Do you remember things happening in the 1950s and the 1960s where Mexicanos were trying to do things politically to try to get more political power and things? Do you remember any of that stuff?
Well, the only thing I remember is when Henry B. Gonzalez was running for, well, he was councilor here for the city, and then he wanted to advance to go to Washington. Then I believe that President Kennedy and Lyndon B. Johnson had a lot to do with him to be able to go to Washington by them coming over here and help him to with his run for Congress.
So how did that make you feel? Did you feel like this was a time where Mexicanos were getting a little bit more powerful?
Well, not really, because there weren't too many Mexicanos doing that, and I don't know. It's now I think is more opportunity for all of you, the younger people, to advance. But back in those days, Maggie, like 1950, we didn't have no say about anything really. Today, yes, but back in those days, no.
Um, I'm gonna go back a little bit to the barbershop. So you were in Divine and you're working with all the, people, all the Mexicanos are coming in to get their hair cut. Was there enough business just with the Mexicano community?
Well, I'll tell you one thing. When I went to the Vine, and and I when I opened the door, that was only for Mexican Americans. This was for anybody, anybody. I had lots of Anglo customers, and not because it's me or talking about me, but thank God that a lot of the Anglos from the Vine and from other little places around the Vine there, they used to come to my barber shop because of the way that I treat them, I guess, Now, I don't think that because I produced better haircuts or anything, but because of the way that I run my business. I treat everybody with dignity. Because that's the way I wanted to be treated. I had some blacks that come from Natalia to get haircuts, and since I forgot to tell you that I used to cut hair. I cut hair at Lackland, and then I cut hair at Brooks General Hospital, and I used to cut some black people there haircuts, and that way I learned how to, because it's a different haircuts between the blacks and the Spanish or the Anglos, and so I learned there at Lackland that to do that. And when I opened the barber shop in Divine, and blacks used to come from Natalia, and when I cut their hair, they keep coming back. So I had Spanish or Mexican Americans, I had Anglos, and I had blacks, and nobody would be turned down. and I see to it that nobody would be turned down.
Let me ask you this: when your kids were in school, was there still discrimination in Divine?
Oh God, yes, sure, sure.
Can you remember things that happened that you had to get involved?
Well, yes, I got a, I got involved one time when Bobby, my son, was a football player, and then they give jackets to all of them except four Mexican Americans, including Bobby, my son, and so I went to the school and I told them, and they said that's the coach. So I went and talked to the coach, and the coach started raising hell with me because that I had no reason to go there and to talk to him about that.
What
And
exactly did he say? You remember what he said?
well, he said that he was running the football game that way, and that my son and these other three boys didn't participate, or they didn't play as many quarters or whatever that he called it back in those days, and that's why he was they weren't going to get no jackets, and I thought that was wrong, but that was the first thing.
And so did that change anything?
No, no. Well, the coach wasn't there to stay, so and Bobby didn't play no more, so I don't know. Just it didn't change anything. When they did change is when Connie and Lupe was in the band, and then they had a what you the no, you wasn't there no more. Yes, Connie and Lupe. Connie was the uh,
President.
the president of the band, and then there was having a parade at Lydon, and Keegan and I went. They was gonna march on the parade. One of the girls asked Connie if they was the ones that had back in those days. The girls used to have long hair, and they said if they was gonna fold them in and put it under the cap, or they was gonna they will was allowed to have it out, And so Maggie went and asked the coach. I mean, Connie went to ask the band director, and then the band director said he started raising hell with Connie, giving her hell because that he wouldn't ask that. He says because and Connie said because a lot of times we allowed to wear them out of the cap, and a lot of time we had to fall them in, and and this is why I'm asking you. So he started raising hell with Connie, and then Connie they got into a fuss, and he says you you're not allowed to you're not going to be band director. I mean uh,
President.
president no more. You're gonna be out of president of the band, and he says, and you're not gonna play today or something like that. So then her and Lupe came to the car where we was, and my wife said, "You wait here. I got something I have to do with the girls." So she went in the car, and they had a big fuss over there, and. And then he told my wife that he wanted to see them and me at at the uh, high school on a Monday morning. So we got dressed and we went over there, and we went to the principal office, and there was the principal, and there was the este we have what principal,
Superintendent.
superintendent there, and then the coach came in. We all sit there. Huh? Band director came in, and so then the one of us said, well, who's going to start the talk after we shake hands with one another, you know? And then they told the band director, well, you, because you're the one to start this, so you go ahead. So he started talking, and then Connie start saying something. I said, no, let him talk, let him say what he want to say. After he got through, then I spoke, and I told him, I said, director said, by the way, I want to ask you, who elected Connie to be the president of the band? He says, I said, you or the band? He says, the band, of course. I said, well, it seemed to me that you had no reason to dismiss her or to discharge her because that wasn't your duty. You can discharge her because you didn't elect her in the first place. And so he talked, and after and I thought things, because he wanted to throw Connie off, and so then I said, after I thought that things was going the band director's way, I told him, I said, look, I said, let me tell you all something. I want you to listen loud and clear. I said, when they come to my kids, when they come to my children, I said, I'm willing to fight all the way, and I'm willing to even kill, because I'm not going to allow anybody, any of you, to run the life of my children. And this I want you to learn. So then they agreed that Connie was going to keep on being the school
Band president.
mm-hmm. Band president, yeah.
So you had 7 kids?
Yes.
Do you think that your kid's life was any different from your own, Dad?
Oh, yes, yes. My life, since I mentioned before, since I didn't have my parents, and a home without parents is no home. Just like mine wasn't. I had a pretty good brothers and sisters, I think, but the lack of my parents, that's something else. Nobody, no brother or sister can compare to the parents. That is, if you
Yeah,
have.
but as far as what society was like for your, as you know, not just what it was like with what it was like for your kids growing up, as far as you know, being Mexican in Texas. Do you think that your kids' lives was different from your life?
Well, yes, because to start with, you you had the opportunity to education, all of you, and we had. You don't get a restroom.
Yeah. Yes. Um, Let me ask you this. What strides do you think Mexican Americans have made?
How's that again?
What progress do you think the Latinos have made since the war, and what do you think still needs to get fixed?
Well, first of all, is that look where you are today. Would have been back in those days, you wouldn't have made it because you weren't allowed to.
Okay, but talk about the general thing because nobody's gonna know who I am.
Okay, all right.
Like overall, if you're just looking at Latinos around the country, do you think that there's been some progress made?
Oh, sure. Uh, during back in my days, there was no Latinos that had restaurants and things like this. Like today is lots of on all kind of things progress. Uh, Education mostly, I think, you know, and I like that because when Kiki and I got married, my wife Henrietta, I should say, then and this was 1945, and the first thing that we talk about is that if God was giving us some children, the first thing we were gonna do to send to school to get them to have an education, and this is what we set our mind to do. Uh, don't mind us, whatever we did or anything like that, but we wanted my children to have an education.
What difference did you think that was going to make in their lives for them to get an education?
Well, first of all, I think is that I didn't know how to read or write, and that I thought my children was gonna have the education that required them to have a better job or better things in life. And this is what my intention. This is what I intend to do.
Do you think there's still some problems that need to get fixed?
How's that?
Do you think there's still some problems for Latinos? I guess so. You said earlier that.
Well, I don't think. I'm going to say it this way: if this problem with Latinos or with anybody today, I think it's up to the parents. I don't blame anybody else. I don't blame the country. I don't blame anybody. I blame the parents. I think we have the best schools there is, but then we had to have the parents to learn to send their children to school. Like when our children went to school, this was their priority: school, 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 and I think and back in my days when my children, you and the rest of the children were going to school, there was still some people that didn't care about sending their children to school. But our children was going to school regardless of the weather, regardless of what. The only thing that they will stay home is when they were sick. And a lot of times, you all know that the kids outsmart the parents sometimes by saying, I'm sick, my stomach, my head, or my whatever, you know. But then it's up to the parents to say, well, take an aspirin or whatever it is, and get something to eat and go to school. And I think this is the thing about it. And today is the same as the past, is that I think it's up to the parents.
Do you think that some of the organizations like LULAC, the JF Forum, do you think that they've made some advances for Latinos?
Not really. I don't think so. Because all of those things are good organizations, but including myself, I don't follow this because one is my age and my trouble with my health that I can't go to these things anymore. I used to when I was young, and even today, if you notice, watch television, see what kind of Latinos or even blacks on television when they come to war deals. They don't show no Latinos. They show the Anglos. Anglos do this. Anglos did that. But was millions of us Latinos back in the Second World War, and blacks that fought the war right along with the whites. But even after the war, we still had the discrimination. We came home to the same discrimination we had before.
Let me ask you this. Going way back to when you were in the Aleutian Islands, did you see the Japanese planes fly overhead?
Yeah.
See, yeah. What was that like? Describe that to me.
Well, the Japanese planes was we call it zeros back in those days. They were all zeros because of the signal on the airplanes and the wings or the fuselage. But anyway, is that they were pretty good planes. As we was talking about here, discussing here the other day, that this this man on television talking about the airplanes and the Japanese planes and our planes and things like that, and they seem to they left things out, you know. The,
When you were in the Aleutian Islands, just tell me what it was like, where you were and what you saw.
well, I was in boat details, and
What is that?
we was unloaded in a boat, and then when we see this bunch of planes coming over, of course we was warning, we was waiting for them to come because they said that they was coming, and before that, let me tell you, before that happened, they sent 35 of us men from Dutch Harbor to the other end of the island. The island is 75 miles long and 45 wide, and they sent 35 of us men over there with nothing but our rifles and two 50 caliber, two 30 caliber machine guns, and that was it to hold the other end of the island. When and they knew that Japanese was coming with a lot of troops and some battleships and aircraft carriers and things like that. Their shots, and here they sent 35 of us to hold the other end of and we were the only soldiers over there at the time. That if the Japanese would have struck back in those days, they wouldn't even thought anything about us. They could just destroy it just like that. But thank God that it didn't happen. And anyway, then we were supposed to go there for 15 days until they replaced us with an outfit from United States. They were supposed to go and take over. But that was 3 months for me over there. We had taken enough food and clothes for 15 days, and that made it 3 months for me. And so we didn't have nothing to eat. And thank God that we had an old destroyer there in the mouth of the harbor that they would supply us with food, you know, until we got some supplies from our base at Dutch Harbor.
So did you see the planes flying overhead?
Oh yes, sure.
Do you saw them shooting or?
Sure, I saw them I saw them when they dropped the bombs and when they strafed us and the airplanes. We had PBYs there, and no, I saw everything.
How long was that? How long did that last?
I don't know. I couldn't tell you how long, but they went over and they thought they was gonna go over and we weren't gonna identify it. But then one soldier said to the sergeant, "Sergeant, this was 6 o'clock in the morning." Said a bunch of airplanes coming over. Said start firing. So he started firing, and this was Navy base. By the time the Navy went to the Army, then the Japanese thought that we already knew that there was Japanese, so they started dropping the bombs, and then nobody quit firing. They kept on firing.
So did that last just 1 day or 2 days or?
No, this last, no, this was just going over it, several times, and then they went back to their boats, to the ships.
Did you pray a lot during that time?
You telling me? Sure. Anybody that says that I didn't cry and things like that, I said they have to be crazy, something wrong with cabeza, because nobody's when you see those bombs coming down and things like that, you cry and you pray because of your life. And nobody can tell me that I didn't cry and things like that, because I used to go in the foxhole and to avoid the bombs and things like that. So I don't know what I did that I was scared.
Thank you, Mr. Rivas.
Okay.